I'm Aryeh Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. The semifinals might be best of 5, but with each series tied 1-1, we are now in best of 3 territory. Many thoughts and reactions, so let's dive right in. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. We also have a whole team of social media experts who run our social media accounts. So check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. And make sure you're checking out the show notes wherever you get this podcast, because if you like to wear WNBA fandom, well, you click on the affiliate links, we get a kickback. It's a circular process that allows us to continue covering the WNBA. Welcome back to the show, the Winsidr Show. We are here. Rachel Galligan in the new house. All the craziness. First episode in a new house. Congratulations on that. But there's bigger things to talk about, no offense. There's bigger things going on in the WNBA world right now. We have 2 head coaches out since the season has ended. Noelle Quinn out in Seattle. And maybe the one that shook the WNBA news world the most, Sandy Brondello out in New York in just 3 seasons there, 2 32-win seasons. And then this year, 2 finals appearances and a WNBA championship. One of the few, if not only, WNBA head coaches to win a championship in 2 locations with 2 different franchises. Basically the Elena Deladon of coaching, or I guess the Candace Parker of coaching. I don't know, whatever you want to say. I mean, my initial thoughts, Noelle Quinn, we struggled for a long time as wanting to be respectful of our situation and her situation. But like, I have been essentially calling that this needed to happen for a while now, from my perspective. I'm not going to go into a whole thing, but like, this team, talent-wise, has continuously underperformed under Quinn. And then with Sandy, it felt like she, often with bad teams, there's that transitional coach that takes them from horrible to just not so bad, and then is let go to bring on that next coach, thinking about before James Wade, thinking about maybe you could argue, hey, before Steph White, thinking about before Dan Quinn in Seattle. That's kind of what I think of. But with Sandy, it's less of a bad team doing that. And it's more of a understanding we were going from the dire straits of Westchester to Brooklyn. We needed to kind of shepherd that change in with a established winner. And now for the next path forward, they're, in my opinion, this is wild out of whatever, but like, I would assume they're looking for somebody a little bit younger who can kind of guide this for a while. Jonathan Cope talked about Cheryl Reeve being an inspiration in terms of longevity. And obviously that is the bar, but like, what are your thoughts on those 2 before we get into the actual semifinals? I just went on a crazy opening rant.
No, that was a really, really good opening rant. And by the way, I'm not really in the house yet. I'm currently sitting in the backyard while the construction's still going on, but this weekend we'll be here. So anyway, nonetheless, I can't wait to actually be back on camera and have like an actual studio and not just be sitting like in a grass patch right now. But yeah, when it comes to Noelle Quinn, I mean, I think that this was something that's been talked about, discussed, anticipated for some time now. Listen, I think it's sometimes it's like, it's just as simple as like, this isn't working, like, and I think it's just bigger than Noelle Quinn too. I mean, like I think Seattle has such an expectation with that franchise. The expectation the bar is really high, and some things kind of fell apart as championship teams and whatever do, and then like they did their best to kind of like reload with talent and create a quote unquote super team, if you will. Whether it's team dynamics that we've talked about now for a couple of years, whether it's coaching, front office dynamics, like there's just been so many reports about just like, I don't know, just like butting of heads in that organization right now. And so it almost just got the sense of like, it's not working. Just across the board, this is not working and something's got to change. And so I think the most obvious, the most, reasonable change, especially headed into such an off season of change that we're getting ready to have, is to make this change. And so I think Seattle's got an opportunity because they're still they're still a legacy franchise, in my opinion, in terms of like people want to be there. You know, the fan base, everything in that market has always been such a, in my opinion, maybe you feel differently, I don't know, but it's been a desirable spot, and supporters of women's basketball and everything they invest into that franchise and the tradition there. And so I just think, I don't know, I think it's the right call. The good news is there's probably going to be more, and we have two new expansion franchises that are going to need coaches, and I would not be surprised to see Noelle Quinn end up at a different spot, because it's not like she was atrocious. You know, it's not like it was just so bad. Like, she did some good things, but maybe it really just does come down to fit in certain, you know, ownership groups, franchises, you know, whatever that might be. She's extremely talented, I think, in her own ways. And so I would expect to see Noelle Quinn back somewhere in the league, whether she gets a head coaching job or whether she has to go the assistant coach route first. New York Liberty, I mean, I think I told you this a couple weeks ago, not to toot my own horn, but I had heard rumblings of this happening, which I think happens, right? When a team like the New York Liberty have such an expectation to run it back and to win a championship, and we all thought for a large part of this season, despite the injuries and inconsistencies, that was still very much possible until like the last month, when it was just like this absolute disaster.
The writing was on the wall. Like,
it was like a complete derailing. And so when things like that, it's like that recency bias stuff. When things like that happen, it's like you start looking around, asking questions. I don't think this is in any way a reflection of Sandy Brondello as a coach, as much as it is that, I say it all the time, like when it comes to coaching, it's about when to get off that wave. And that works twofold. That's the coach making a decision of, okay, this it's time for a change, whatever that change might be. And it's also front office is making that decision. And so I think this one to me is a little bit harder to swallow just because of the obvious. You just don't have the caliber of coaches like Sandy Brondello in the WNBA. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people trying to build to that, but she's such in my opinion, I mean, she's a legend in the WNBA for many reasons, and she's done some great things. And it kind of almost reminds me when it happened at Phoenix. It was that. Remember how surprising that was? Because they were 1 year removed from a championship, I'm pretty sure. Or
no,
not.
They came off of losing the championship to Chicago, I believe.
Yeah, but did they win it the year? Whatever, but something like that. It was like, dang, you know, she leads them to the finals, and like that's not enough. And so it is interesting that it's like happened a second time. I think, again, we have to look at a big picture here of the offseason we're getting ready to have, and probably what that New York Liberty front office is thinking they can try to restructure and rebuild. For the last kind of 3 years, they've tried to run it a certain way. And they just get the sense that like this formula and these people and how we're trying to throw in certain players to you know, make up for what we lost just isn't working. Like, it's not a complete blow up, but it's like a partial demolition, because like the current formula is not working, clearly. I mean, look at, but then I push back on my own self on that, because we said it all year long that this team struggled with inconsistencies all year long. I think not having Benijah Laney was arguably one of the biggest downfalls of this team, that depth. But then you had Jonquel Jones out. You had Brandon Stewart out. I mean, you just had so much back and forth. Then you bring in Emma Meesum in like super late in the season, and that didn't necessarily throw anything off, but did it help anything? Should we played more? This whole year was just like, it was just like everybody was just hoping for the best in that franchise, and like they never got to a point where things were clicking and they looked great. They never looked great.
They never looked like they had that hot start. But besides that, and the thing that I will push back though is like, that's why you build a super team. That's why you have a starting five, or your like the end of season roster of players had multiple MVPs, multiple finals MVPs, multiple scoring like the level that this team had. Yes, I understand what you're saying. To me, like, it boils down to two things. One, I think in a grand scheme of things, there was some flaws in terms of not the roster makeup, but in terms of who they were playing with who and who they were running with who. Like, I've been preaching this since they signed Natasha Cloud. it would have been better to have her coming off the bench and playing 5 shooters out, because especially if you're going to include Emma, but because you're slowing down a little bit with JJ and Stu and whatever it is. I just saw something last year where the league couldn't handle this team with 5 shooters out. And they can handle this team, and they were only going to get better at handling this team if you continue to do the same thing. But again, like you were saying, it's the equation. You have to at some point change the equation, and the best teams, the best GMs and the best coaches see it coming a season early or half a season early and can make that adjustment.
Correct. And I think we got to remind ourselves, winning a championship and getting so many things have to go right, from health, from, chemistry, from people taking less money to front offices, to like so many things. It's like catching lightning in a bottle, for anybody to go up in this league and to go win a championship. And so it's like, I don't think it's not as simple as just being like, oh, they didn't win, fire Sandy, she didn't get it done. It's just, there's so many layers to it, in my opinion. And there was actually a part of me that wondered, and this is just me, like when I had first heard this, like, could this have potentially been a mutual thing? Maybe not, but like even coaches sometimes are like, this isn't working anymore. Or this has ran its course. And I think that that's kind of maybe as simple, that the best way I can wrap my mind around it, is it's just something like that. Now, what I can say is I'm super excited to see where Brondello is going to land. I mean, if I'm the Seattle Storm, I know everyone's been saying that, if I'm an expansion team, I mean, for a coach of her caliber who, is walking into this brand new CBA era and being able to go somewhere, like, players want to play for her. What does this mean for some of the players that she's coached who are about to be unrestricted free agents? And what does that mean for whatever franchise decides to bring her in? So that's going to be really interesting to me, not just the where she goes, but like the domino effect of like, who does that draw with them potentially for the future? Because again, we're walking into an unprecedented offseason of just complete change. So I don't know. It's hard. You hate to see anybody, lose their job. But I mean, obviously it's a part of sports and this is what happens. And I just think Jonathan Kolb's quotes coming out earlier today, as we're recording this on, I don't even know what day it is actually, so don't even know.
Exactly right.
Thursday. We're kind of telling, I think, and it kind of falls in line with the things we're saying here. But yeah, I mean, just from a shock standpoint, it was like, that was a hard one to swallow for sure.
All right, moving on to arguably definitely bigger news. All right, Minnesota Lynx, we haven't been back since the semifinals started, but Minnesota Lynx take game 1 against Phoenix Mercury in Minnesota. The Indiana Fever shocked the WNBA world, taking game 1 against the Las Vegas Aces. So then we go into game 2, where the Mercury make a 20-point, most of the game 17-point comeback over Minnesota, push it to overtime, goes to overtime, and again, Minnesota just doesn't have the gas for overtime. And then in the Aces Fever, we're all tied up because the Aces just controlled, and anytime the Fever tried to make a run, the Aces just said, sit back down. Right. Asia Wilson took over. Yeah. So here we sit now. It is, as I said earlier, a best of 3, because, hey, we're basically new series. That's how you got to look at it now. If I'm the coach, games 3 and 4 are at the lower seeded team. So now we're going to the X Factor. We're going to Phoenix. And Indiana Fever, I don't think they have a name for their fan base. They should. The Aces are going to the Fever fandom. I don't know. For games 3 and 4. And I'm curious for you. Like, I think I have a little bit more of like a crazy take. Maybe I'm like drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much on the Lynx after that first series. But I went into this series thinking it was going to be 3-1. That's just what my take was on this series. I didn't think I think Minnesota is by far the best team in the league and they take care of business, but I didn't see them sweeping the Mercury. Just knowing AT, knowing Ka, like they have too much on that team. Did I necessarily think it was going to be a 20-point blowout and then comeback loss in game 2 at home? No. But at the same time, like, I don't know if that's that much worse. Right? Like we saw this happen last year with Minnesota where they blew, not necessarily blowing a big lead, but like They blew a game early in the semifinals and were able to charge back and take care of business. For me, I mean, and tell me if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much again. I didn't see anything in game 2 when they blew that lead that made me go, "Oh man."
Yeah.
Like, it was more so like Minnesota looked sloppy. The Mercury were still not hitting so many shots. The Mercury still needed to like luck was on the Mercury side, and I don't want that to take away from the amazing Alyssa Thomas play, Satu Sabli, and Sammy Wickham with just insane plays. But it felt like it was just one of those stretches where Minnesota kind of lost their way and got frazzled. And it was arguably the first time I saw them get frazzled this season. And it's almost like they don't know how to handle going into halftime with a big lead. So that's my thought on that. So I still think they take both games in Phoenix because I'm just like leaning into my gut feeling and not arguing with myself too much. Where are you on this?
I agree. I didn't anticipate a sweep. I think Phoenix just has too much talent, and they are capable at times of beating anybody in the league. Can they do it consistently? That's where I have my questions. I know I was watching that game and you just felt like a shift. You felt a shift in that second half. And I couldn't really pinpoint it, third largest comeback in WNBA playoff history. I guess like if I'm the Phoenix Mercury and you're starting this series in Minnesota, which is arguably one of the hardest places to play, you're going into this thinking, all right, the goal has got to be we're getting out of here with 1. We're trying to go 1-1 at Minnesota. And you lose the first game pretty handedly. I mean, it was pretty clear that Minnesota was a much better team, at least that night. And then it's like that second half, Phoenix looked like a team with their back against the wall, knowing the sense of urgency that had to be had in order to not go back home to Phoenix down 0-2, down 2 games. And so I guess the word that I think of when I think back to that second half and just how that shift happened and overtime, as soon as they went into overtime, I was sitting with some of my neighbors and I was like, Phoenix has the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
They completely have the momentum. And they did, because that's what happens when you send it, that late in the game. And so I just, I saw urgency, and I think I'm not really frazzled or rattled if I'm Minnesota. I think that, I agree. I really don't anticipate them to sweep this series. So I think it's a great series. I think I actually thought it would go to 5 games.
Okay. I can see that too still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think Minnesota, I still have confidence in Minnesota. I didn't see that the season was broke. I saw that with Golden State. I saw that with New York, and I saw that with some other teams. So that's just where I was. Now with the Aces and Fever, I think we'll dive a little bit more into this at a different time, more extensive, especially maybe after the series is over, maybe after this game, except I think it's Friday and Sunday. So maybe we won't have time, but the point is more so with this game, it feels to me like if the Fever continue to have the gas, they can push this to 5. It would be immaculate. It would be impressive. It would be ridiculous. Obviously, I'm thinking Aces take both games in Indiana. But most of us probably thought that Aces were going to sweep Indiana. So for me, it's have the Fever. That's what it comes down to. Have the Fever run out of gas. Are they driving on fumes right now? Because they have the ability to beat the Aces. They took them 3-1 in the regular season. They're 1-1 in the playoffs. But it comes down to that. This is they're calling them the Build-A-Bear team, the hospital team. There's all the nicknames for this team. That's just a ragtag bunch of players who have come together and just bought in. And it is so beautiful. I tweeted this out during the first round. It feels like this is a Disney movie. That said, I don't think, sorry to be the heartbreaker. I would be shocked to see the Fever pull this off. Can they take one home game? Yes, most definitely. That crowd is going to be crazy. Can they take it in 5? I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I said something similar on social media, and it was funny. Some people weren't understanding it. This will go down as one of the most legendary, I don't forget the word I use, seasons in Fever history. And it's not because I think they're going to win a championship. They might just get swept the rest of this. It's what they've been able to accomplish as a unit. It's what they've been able to accomplish as a team. It's the play of Kelsey Mitchell. It's the overcoming of the injuries and the adversities to get to this point and to even win a game against Vegas in the semis. To me was really impressive. And I think this is what sports is about. It's those underdog moments where all the odds are against you and nobody anticipates that you're going to do much with it, and people are just ready to throw the season away, and you just defy the odds and come together, and like great things can happen. This has been a great Indiana Fever year because of all of that. I mean, it's just what they are doing right now in the grand scheme of all of sport is incredibly unique. And I think it's special to take a moment and to appreciate that and to celebrate this team and the job that Stephanie White has done. But in the same breath, they're playing with house money. They're literally playing with house money. And that's a scary situation. You know, when you're going against a team like the Las Vegas Aces that, you know, they've won all these games and they're the hottest team and they've got the MVP and they were on all this, like this streak and, you know, all this stuff. And like Indiana has nothing to lose. And sometimes that's really, that's a scary combination for a team like Vegas. And that's what I saw in the first game was house money. You're playing free. Like you could get swept and nobody can criticize this franchise or this team right now. You know, they should be celebrated. And so I saw house money. What I saw in game 2 was Vegas doing what Vegas should do to this Fever team.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really a shift of 2 games. I'll always say, Rachel, growing up as a Minnesota Vikings fan, I don't know if you ever got this as a Bears fan, but like on Vikings talk radio, whenever we'd play the Lions, because the Lions always stunk, it'd always be like, nothing is more dangerous than a lion with his back against the wall. And it's like, that's how I feel about the Fever. Like if you sleep on them, they will punch you in the face and they can beat you. But if you take care of business and do what you're supposed to do, you will win. I also feel that for Minnesota. And honestly, let's be real. The whole world wants Lynx Aces finals.
I agree. I do want to say a couple things. Can we talk real fast? I know we both got to go. The Jonas Brothers WNBA like thing going on right now.
I want to talk about this so much more, but I actually have a heart out. But I will say that is so amazing that we are at the point where WNBA teams are kicking out concerts and other events. All through it. Mic drop. Thank you, Rachel.